finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm a fuck with the ball, yeah. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm on fuck with the ball. Let me tell you how I know. I had to get up off the floor. I had to get it out the mud. I had to finally let it go. I know my mama told me so, but she could never really know that when a boy was getting older, that his mind was getting sober, yeah. But I'm getting closer now. I had a church, but I closed it down. Had to reverse the emotions. I had to apologize. Selling eternity, willing to die. I was just living a lie. Walking by faith and ignoring the sight. Better off rolling the dice. And what I'm saying is that I'm living and I've learned. I've given and I've earned enough of my concern. And if I'm living, then I'm living on my terms. Call it a lesson learned, but it's finally been confirmed. I finally got the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm on fuck with the ball, yeah. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother.
What's up, family? How are y'all doing today? And yeah, that is me. That is me, the damn network. That's me, Chris. What's up, Black Atheist Rants? Nice to see you in the chat, man. Man, it's so good to see you all. I know yesterday was a little out of whack. My schedule has been crazy this week, man. So we didn't get to do Bible study with an ex-pastor yesterday, though I did stream a video, and I hope that video was helpful for you because it does give you some insight into what we're going to be doing as a community as this year is rolling out. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I don't know what the fuck you're waiting on. Go check that shit out, man. Don't be slow with it. Don't be slow with it. But no, so glad to have y'all here on this Thursday evening. So check this out, man. I had this video. Oh man, it's so good to see y'all in here. I had this video planned to do earlier, and it was going to be my Thursday video. It was going to release sometime around, noonish or one-ish. But we have so much going on at work. The company that I work for just recently got bought out. So it's been back-to-back meetings. I've been in meetings with clients trying to reassure them that, hey, everything is okay. At least I think so, type of thing, while at the same time, managing the growth of our community and the very real work that we're trying to do here, especially with BridgeCity, and that's just building community beyond superstition. We have an incredibly busy weekend coming up. Obviously, we have our Sunday sessions, but we also have ex-pastor call-in show happening on Saturday night. And then on Sunday night, and then on Saturday evening, we have our BridgeCity Dreaming Community Development Series, where we're talking more so to the people in our community who have really, signed up or stepped up to be leaders. So it's just going to be one hell of a weekend, and we got a lot going on. Many of you know we have our BridgeCity Weekends Raleigh event coming up in April. We have some exciting news about some people who are joining the ticket, if I could say it that way. So that's going to be incredible. But I'm not going to belabor the point too long. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider supporting, connecting, or joining this community channel or content in any way that makes sense for you. And of course, share this video with somebody. Your work, you sharing this video helps us get this work out further and further. And then, of course, check out our merch, because we have really dope merch and we have some really good books. And I'm actually working on some ways that we can partner with some other content creators so that we can put all of our merch in the same space. There's power in that. There's just power in working together. So I'm excited about that. All right. Oh, snap. We got some people from Cleveland in here. Michelle. I used to travel to Cleveland every year to one of my mentors, actually 4 times a year. Squad up. I love it. I love it. 4 times a year, I used to travel to Cleveland, Ohio. The first time I went, I drove on a flip of a dime. But man, I used to love it, just being up there and having a good time, All right, so are y'all ready to jump into this conversation today? This one is a little different. I didn't plan on doing this one live, but I felt like it needed to be done. Now, I'm going to warn you that some of this is, I'm going to have to be a little strong with this, because this could have been a trolls video, because this is in response to some of the shit I've seen in my comments. And honestly, and I'll kind of dive into this later, I'm really getting to the place that I don't even like reading through the comments anymore. Now, honestly, the majority of you are wonderful, our supporters, our subscribers. Many of your comments absolutely lend to the conversation. And there are many of you that I let you know that even when some of your stuff is disagreeable, we have really good conversations. Oh, that goat emote. Man, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, man. And so let's jump into this and see how this go, man. I'm concerned that agnosticism is becoming a code word for intellectually lazy and socially immature. I know, shots fired. It is what it is. And I'm not saying all agnostics are intellectually lazy and socially immature. I am an agnostic. I am an agnostic atheist. I identify as an agnostic atheist. But I am concerned that many of people, especially the ones in my comments, because I realized when I review 99% of the people who identify as exclusively agnostic in the comments, which I don't know what exclusively agnostic is, and we'll talk about that. And it's not like I even ask for people for their identifiers, but their comments always easily identify as not thought out, and it's almost always an attack on atheism, which I had to call one brother out recently because I was wondering, like, where do agnostics get this vitriol against atheists? When atheists, by far and large, and you all feel free to point me to something that I haven't seen, but I think I might be the first person calling this problem out in this type of way, because by far and large, atheists, we don't see an issue with the term agnostic. We don't see an issue with agnosticism at all. And so I guess one of the biggest differences between me and a lot of these other people is I recognize a coward when I see one. You know what I'm saying? And so if your place of attack is in someone's comments and then you don't have the first video on your own channel, you're a fucking disingenuous coward trying to get clout by fucking around and finding out like a groupie on a tour bus. You know what I'm saying? So like, right. Yeah, I love that. I love that, Cherry. Just like I'm a queer lesbian. Like, right. Like, oh my goodness. Yes, that's it. I'm agnostic, anti-theist, and atheist. All of the above. Let me check all the fucking boxes. But one thing that does become clear, and y'all let me know if anything cuts out. I'm using new equipment. Comment sections are a cesspool. They are, man. But it's definitely become clear to me that many of these YouTube agnostics mistakenly believe that agnosticism is somehow a neutral position between atheism and theism, completely overlooking the literal reality or the literary reality rather, that agnosticism is the opposite of Gnosticism, not theism or atheism. It doesn't exist in the middle of either of those motherfuckers. People who make this mistake clearly do not understand how suffixes and prefixes work. Oh, man. Oh, snap. We got gifted memberships. That is beautiful. Oh, my goodness. Oh, we love you, Kalasia. Thank you. Thank you. And let me know if I'm not pronouncing that right, because I will fuck up a name. But you can imagine being named Darante. My name has been fucked up plenty of times in life. I've been called Durant. I've been called Devante, which is one of the reasons I don't have very much respect for educators, because when educators are mispronouncing my name, I'm like, now what the fuck? Like, not you say Durant, I give you a pass. You say Devante, like I'm like, what the fuck is that? That's not me. Hell, I've even been called Dorito, and that one, it was so damn funny that I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop it. I love it. I love it. So like I kind of said in the beginning, I am honestly getting to the place that I no longer enjoy reading through my comments. And it's not because it's offensive, like offense, like I don't really care about. These are strangers. It's because it's incredibly disheartening to see how arrogantly stupid people are. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, oh man, you don't have to do that to yourself. Like if like here, what I know about stupid people, and forgive me, I told y'all this was going to be hard. I told y'all it was going to be hard. I did warn everybody in advance. But what I know about stupid people is that you didn't study shit, you didn't research shit, you had a thought and you ran with it. And you know that, right? You know you didn't study that. You know you didn't research that. You just heard somebody else say something, or you just thought something in your mind, and you decide to just run with that shit. And so for you to open your mouth knowing you didn't do the first bit of research or intentional study, absolutely you're going to lose my respect every single time, because I'm going to look at it and I'm going to be able to tell if it's something that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm going to be able to tell within the first few sentences if you actually know what you're talking about, or even if you're actually even dealing in good faith, right? So I don't like that. And I've called this shit out before. And I told y'all, I call it the hallelujah syndrome, right? It's the hallelujah syndrome. When you go to church for the first time, you've never heard this word hallelujah before in your fucking life, but you hear other people saying amen and hallelujah. So eventually you just start saying amen and hallelujah. Now, what I encourage people to do to test this hypothesis of mine, the next time you hear somebody just say hallelujah, just pull them to the side real quick and ask them one simple question. Hey, what does that word mean? You know what I'm saying? And this syndrome, this phenomenon is not just identifying that the person doesn't know what the word means. What it's identifying is how easy it is for us to adopt words into our vocabulary that we have no clue what the fuck they mean. And it's not just words, it's concepts. Because I tell people this is one of the things that I went through in my deconversion, of actually challenging myself to say, why is it that you're uncomfortable supporting gay people or queer people's rights the way you support other people's rights? And at the end of the day, after I wrestled with that, I thought about it. I was like, I don't have a right to be uncomfortable with this. I'm running with something that I read in a dusty old book, and I've never done the first of research into this. I've never done interviews with people whose lives this stuff actually impact. I was a victim, if you will, and I don't even want to use the word victim because that's given me a pass. But if you will, I was using that. I had fallen prey to the hallelujah syndrome. I'm just saying shit because everybody else is saying that. And so what I do find to be true with a lot of people in my comments who identify as exclusively agnostic is that many of them don't know what the fuck the word means. You know what I'm saying? Oh man. Now y'all let me know if y'all still seeing me. It just froze up on my side, so I don't know. But oh nope, it just did more than just froze up. My screen just blacked out, so we'll see what's happening there. Oh my goodness. Let's see. This is not great because I want to go into more of this. What is happening? I can't see the chat, so I don't. Well, I can see the chat, but I don't know if it's. But hey, there's more than one way to cook a sausage, as the way Muttley says. And so if y'all are still hearing me, just know that I am working it out as we speak. At least I hope so. So it's just frozen. So y'all can still hear me, but it's frozen. I'm going to see if I can come in from another camera. Thank you, Chris. I just got that message from you too. Bro, this is about to be so fucking annoying. Is that snake? Audio testing 1 2 3. I guess we're back in. Are we back in? All right. I'm mad now. Now I'm really about to snap. I don't know what it is. So I had to switch back to my old camera. Because the new camera all of a sudden didn't want to be seen. And so let's get this conversation started back up. I'm going to be aggravated. I already told y'all it was going to be a hard one. So now it's about to be a damn it, I'm agitated now. Holy shit. Okay, so, all right, so where was I at? So these people who do these things, the first thing that I can typically notice about them is that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you know? And so the thing that ends up bothering me while I'm at this place now where I don't even like going through my comments anymore is just because the majority of people who are talking are just, I'm going to need that help. You know, a lot of the people are talking, they're just saying shit that they just heard somebody else say. And so I'm like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. The reason I get pissed off about that is because people like that are the reason for rampant misinformation. People like that are a willing vessel of arrogant ignorance. And that's just something that I'm not a fan of. And so while I'm here, let me call out a few pseudo professionals as well. I told you I'm not pulling any punches with this one. In one of my videos, I mentioned that I didn't know the pronunciation of certain ancient people's names and admitted that I didn't care to know the pronunciations because these people are not a part of my focus of study and are therefore not a part of my regular conversation. So the utility of me stressing myself out to learn how to pronunciate a name that I'm likely never going to ever say again just doesn't make any sense. So me mentioning them this one time in this video is for a point of reference only. But I had the intellectual honesty to explain that. People still chimed in and would say stuff like, well, it would lend more credibility to you if you learned the names. And I thought, oh, this must be a scholar indeed. And sure enough, no, just another YouTube rando. Here's a free tip for the dumbasses out there. Professionalism is about specification, not pronunciation. Just thought I'd help you out a little bit. Now, the problem with this is that the issue isn't that people actually care about pronunciation, is that they're missing the larger point of the video and the content. I was sharing my thoughts, not trying to be an expert on every minute detail. The comments focusing on pronunciation rather than the content of the conversation reveal, can you guess it? Intellectual laziness. These comments are more concerned with trivialities than engaging with the depth of the ideas that are being presented, which reflects a form of shallow criticism that deflects attention from the more meaningful substances of the actual conversation. Now, the request for me to know every pronunciation, especially when I've explained that it isn't my area of focus, nor is it even my prerogative. Like literally, I said, I'm not interested in doing it, reflects a lack of understanding of intellectual humility. Credibility doesn't come from memorizing every detail, but from the ability to critically analyze and discuss ideas. These comments are substituting superficial correctness for substance and intellectual depth. And that's the shit that I got to put out there. You know what I'm saying? So somebody else took it a step further and decided to respond by misspelling my name. Okay. the name you see written, the name that's on my channel. So they decided to respond by misspelling my name and some other people's names. Now, the choice to misspell my name because of a disagreement with my stance or approach is a petty act of progress reflecting emotional rather than any type of intellectual engagement. It shows a lack of maturity in handling disagreements or critiques. And so instead of taking the opportunity to engage with my point about how minor details like pronunciation are secondary to the larger ideas being discussed, the person resorts to a personal attack, making it about me, not the issue, which I do want to say ultimately is rooted in European racism. I do want to throw that out there just for those who did not know, because many of you actually absolutely think that slaves prior to the United States or prior to the European folk could not read and could not write, because you conflate with someone speaking a different language and writing in a different language, which what they do being not valuable at all. If you can't pronounce my name, motherfucker, I ain't got to be able to pronounce yours. Fuck you and the horse that you rode in on. So no, I'm sorry. I just had to throw that shit out there. That's right. You have to really listen. And the truth of the matter is the brain is fascinating. It is most of the times, anytime someone does some type of petty critique like that, I always remind them, and yet somehow you still understood. Now you are sitting here complaining that this was somehow an obstruction for you, and yet somehow you still understood with your dumb ass. You don't even know when you understand. You don't even know when your understanding is working. God damn it. I'm sorry. I had to say that. Oh, man. Absolutely, Jimmy. Absolutely. So the thing is, these types of comments reflect a general trend of intellectual laziness and immaturity in online discourse. And many of these commenters deflect from meaningful discussions by focusing on trivial issues, which doesn't contribute to the substance of the argument or the conversation or the claim. They fail to engage in any meaningful dialogue by resorting to personal insults or making petty points instead of addressing the intellectual content of the discussion. And then most times they misunderstand key concepts such as the distinction between professionalism and superficial correctness, and lack the maturity to focus on the big picture of the conversation. Do y'all see what I'm saying? And so this is why a lot of times I don't engage with so much, because it's like, just because you don't know you a dumbass, don't mean I got to pretend you not, you know? And in many times, what most people don't realize, I'm going to give you the secret. I'm going to give you the secret to my sauce, all right? Here it is. I know people have wondered, like, damn, how is he so quick at catching bullshit? Because I am a pragmatist. So I don't give a fuck what the argument is and what the normal approach to it is. My mindset goes to utility. How useful is the shit you saying? And if the shit you saying is not useful, I got no time for it. You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness. That is so right. Let's explore. Lost Explorers Guild. Ooh, I like that. That sounds like a novel. It says a lot more about the person's attention span, entirely thrown by any triviality. And I'll let them know quickly, hey, you got to get that shit together on your own, bro. I can't fix your issues. So I call this stuff out, and we're going to get back to the agnostics, I promise you. But I call this stuff out to encourage a more responsible intellectual approach to discourse, one where engagement is rooted in the quality of ideas, not petty distractions, and that's a vital step in cultivating a thoughtful, mature community for meaningful discussions, So now back to the topic at hand. All right, so we open up this conversation talking about, atheism and agnosticism. And the question is agnosticism a more honest worldview than atheism? This has been a stream of comments from a few trolls who identify as agnostic. And many of them, I don't consider them agnostic. They seem to be superstitious believers to me. Because I've met plenty of agnostics. But like I said, I'm concerned that this word agnostic is starting to get linked into this idea of like, oh, this is a neutral point. And I had to correct a young brother earlier this week. And I said, oh, no, there is no neutrality in belief. And agnosticism has nothing to do with belief. Agnosticism has what has to do with what is knowable or not knowable. You know what I'm saying? So to think, okay, so we're gonna get into this. What I'm going to do is typically what I do in our trolls conversations. I'm going to highlight some of this shit. I'm going to highlight some of these specific comments and then just walk you through them. And maybe you're one of these people who have chosen the word agnostic to identify yourself without knowing what the fuck it meant. So today, I hope we can kind of give you some insight so you can understand that agnosticism is not the opposite of atheism. That is not how suffixes and prefixes work, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know where the fuck shit be getting this from. You know, that's like saying, like, I don't even know. You know, like upward and downward are related. You see the suffixes? Atheism, agnostic, they have different suffixes. Okay. They have the same prefix. The A, sure, it's there. But you have to deal with the theism and you have to deal with the Gnosticism. What do those words mean? All right. So one person said, this is a comment, I don't believe or disbelieve in a God. All right. What I want you to understand about that statement is a logical fallacy. All right. There is no neutrality of belief. You have either been convinced of something or you have not been convinced of something, which is why I say people who tend to take this route are just cowards. You know, like you may not know why you're a coward, and that may be offensive to you. But if you're saying, no, I don't believe or disbelieve, then you don't know how the fuck words work, or you're just afraid. You know, you're either afraid to say, well, I kind of do believe there might be a God, or you're afraid to say, I don't have any reason to believe that there is a God. Now, mind you, if you're saying, I don't believe there is a God, that's not the same thing as making a claim as there is not a God. When you say, I don't believe there is a God, you're saying, I have not received any evidence that would demonstrate or lead me to the ideal that there is a God. All right, so I didn't mean to go that far because that's just one line. That's just one sentence. But I do believe that was my response to that, brother, is that, hey, that's a logical fallacy. I know you don't know that. But again, remember I told you earlier, I can pretty much realize real quick when somebody don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But I've been studying the hallelujah syndrome for a very long time. But he says, I don't believe or disbelieve in God. I can live with admitting I just don't know. No one knows, but boy, do people like to say they know the unknowable. Hence the scorn on agnosticism. My camera doing that thing again. Hence the scorn on agnosticism, even though it's the only honest position. And obviously, this is the comment that led to this conversation, right? There's going to be some more, but this is the comment. So let me just walk this back through for those of you who are just joining. This person says, I don't believe or disbelieve in a God. This person doesn't understand what they're saying because that's a logical fallacy. You've either been convinced. Nobody says, I don't believe or disbelieve in Santa Claus. Nobody says, I don't believe or disbelieve in the tooth fairy. Nobody says, I don't believe or disbelieve in a flat earth. You either have attached your belief to one, you've either attached your belief to something or you haven't. If you have not attached your belief to something, you disbelieve it. That's how that works. That's how that works. I think like me and Randall had a really positive conversation, which I do love positive conversations about the difference between rejection and acceptance. Because I think the question was, I said that atheism is the rejection of God claims. And he said, I want to split hairs there, that it's not the rejection, it's just we don't accept it. And I'm like, then I would split hairs back. How can you not accept without rejecting? That is, anything that is not accepted is by default rejected. So by the same token, anything that is not believed is not believed. But we have so many people who live today. This is how bad public education has failed us, you know, or maybe how bad we failed public education. That might be a better way to say it. We failed public education so bad that people literally let words come out their mouth. They literally type words that have no fucking meaning. And that thing up here has no way of deciphering that. And that's really sad because that thing up there is incredibly powerful if you actually build those muscles. But we have people so used to just spouting bullshit. Hallelujah. You see how I did that? So he says, so I can live with admitting I just don't know. Now, the insinuation here, and you'll see in the next line, is that atheists are somehow claiming to know. This is the most dishonest part about these type of agnostics, because not only do they not know what the fuck agnosticism means, they obviously don't know what the fuck atheism means. But again, if you didn't understand the prefix and the suffix of agnostic, then you obviously didn't understand the same prefix and suffix of and theism. You know what I'm saying? You know. And then he says, hence the scorn on agnosticism. Again, most atheists that I know, and I think some of you have identified so as such in the chat, most atheists that I know identify as agnostic. So where would the scorn be coming from? We'd be scorning ourselves. But it's like people, okay, so let me get through this. Well, I got to say this just in case I forget. People act like being an atheist is pretending to know something, and it is the exact opposite. Being an atheist for me is being liberated from ever having to pretend to know shit that I haven't been convinced of ever again. And that's why I call this form of agnosticism whatever the fuck it is, because it's not actually agnosticism. It's just a person that heard a buzzword and literally thought that, oh yeah, agnosticism, you're either a believer, you an atheist, or you an agnostic. No, motherfucker, you are stupid as fuck. That's not how that works. Like, use that phone for more than porn and music, motherfucker. Like, damn it, you can easily research these words. It doesn't take all that, man. Oh, man. Oh, thank you, Jimmy. I'll be looking out for it. Some of y'all can't see the people on Facebook who are watching, and that is cool. And that is cool. Yep, othering, grouping people by labels, absolutely. And so it's very interesting. So the statement that agnosticism is the only honest opinion reveals a misunderstanding of both epistemology and the concept of belief. The term agnostic comes from the Greek gnosis, right? Which means knowledge. And the prefix however the fuck you want to say it, means without, without knowledge. It is not about indecision, nor is it a default neutral stance, but about a lack of knowledge regarding the existence of deities. Yes. Oh, I love that, Duran. Being an atheist is having the faith to know that I don't know. Like, oh, man. That's it. I love that, Carrie. Like everything else in life, it's on a spectrum and can be abused or misused. Man. Yes. Oh, I love that. Chris just jumped in from Facebook. So he's on both sides. Hey, man, I do want to stop and say, like, y'all are an amazing community. I also want to stop and say that, like, Chris has easily become like a really cool person that I like highlighting a lot. And so y'all be prepared to see a lot more of Chris over this way. And I haven't thrown this out yet, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but I just accepted a new hosting position on the line, and I'll be on Myth Vision in March. So back to regular stated conversation. We'll get back to this. I'll check the chat and see how y'all felt about that later. But so atheism is the lack of belief in gods or deities. Atheism by default is not a claim that gods don't exist. Atheism is not a definitive claim that gods don't exist. Thank y'all. Y'all are so awesome. Atheism is just the state of not believing. And I like the way of putting it, not convinced, because in my deconversion process and in my deconstruction, that's where I ended up at, was realizing that no, there had never been sufficient information for me to believe this in the first place. There was never a sufficient reason for me to believe that a ghost goblin impregnated a teenage girl, and that teenage girl gave birth to half ghost goblin, half dude, whose whole purpose was to die and then to rise and then to say, I'm coming back. And then 2,000 fucking years later, I had no evidence of this shit to believe in the first place. And this is why, y'all know, I've said it. This is why I'm not a fan of platforming debates with Christian folks. This is why I'm not a fan of even treating them like this is realistic. Until we get to the place where you can show that there was ever a sufficient reason to believe this shit in the first place, we should all treat it like we know there was not good reason. That's where I stand. So it's not that, no, we're saying there could never be a God. But honestly, I am one of the few who will take that extent. I will take that statement. I will go as far and say, no, because as of now, gods are a product of absolute human speculation and human imagination. Now, I'll talk a little bit about that more. But so that then anything that in this world exists with the characteristics that we've given to God other than creator, we wouldn't call it God. We wouldn't. If an alien came and had all of the creative powers that we've given to God, we would not call that creator God. And I'll show you the hypocrisy in that, because we do the same thing in Christianity. So in every other religion, a God is any being that is immortal. A God is any being, and it really doesn't even have to be immortal. In any other religion, in any other mythology, a God is any being that is not human and that is supernatural in essence. And if that's the case, then Christianity has more gods than any other fucking religion, because it has an innumerable amount of angels who do not live or die. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bullshit on top of bullshit on top of bullshit on top of bullshit, and you have to pretend like the shit doesn't say what the shit says. You know what I'm saying? But this is why Christians play those little games like, nah, bruh, it's big G or little g. If it's a little g, it's a different type of God. That ain't how that shit work, bruh. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I choose to believe that gods do not exist on the evidence. I address the actualities of reality with God as an unknown because it's what it is currently. I like that. Dragons in Genesis, my boy. Dragons in Genesis. Jason will be back on with us February 9th. We're going to be here for the content creators. Don't y'all miss that. Oh, man, who do claim that we have sufficient evidence that God does not exist. For people who claim that we have sufficient evidence that God does not exist, which I would be in that category, it just wouldn't be atheism, because atheism itself just means without God. You know, atheism itself speaks to nothing about proof. Atheism itself just speaks to the stance of not being without God. You know, of not having that belief in a God. And so I do think Lost Explorers Guild, which again, that sounds like a novel. I do think we likely need another word, because I am one of those people who are willing to stand on those lines and say, no, from the way that we have previously defined God in every religion that, in most of the religions that we have, I am 100% confident that none of those exist. And I'm pretty sure we have all of the evidence we need to define that. The only reason these type of agnostics get to live in the gray area, because they create an undefined unknown, which at that moment, any undefined unknown is possible because it's fucking undefined. If you're going to change what God is just to have a God, then there's actually no utility in the conversation. So, and that's what you get from some of those agnostics. They're like, well, I don't know if it's a creator or this. It could be a blob. But if that blob is responsible for all of us, then you're not even saying anything that makes any fucking sense anymore. It's kind of like the dude who started this one off is, I believe in a God, but I don't believe in a God, but I don't disbelieve in a God. This dude doesn't know what the words don't and believe do when you put them together. Don't is kind of like this. So if you put don't believe, that is the exact same thing as disbelieve. I'm telling you, either the public education system has failed us, or we have horribly failed the public education system. Because people say this shit arrogantly, proudly. All right, so let's move on. So being agnostic is not inherently more honest than atheism. And as a matter of fact, those two things shouldn't even be compared like that, because they're not mutually exclusive. Many atheists identify as agnostic, you know? Many theists identify as agnostic, and for the type of agnostics who make these type of claims, I'm just like, why don't you just find comfort in the fact that you believe bullshit and call it what it is? Like, don't be trying to make it something that it ain't, because it's honestly, it's disrespectful to agnosticism. It's disrespectful to what that is. It makes us who have no problem being agnostic not want to identify with y'all asses. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, don't make it. That's right. Agnostic and atheist are answers to two different questions, So both positions, in my opinion, are reasonable, depending on your approach, to knowledge and belief. Because remember, one of these is about knowledge, one of these is about belief, this comment also falls into the logical fallacy of false equivalence, as it compares a position of non-belief with one of claiming neutrality on belief, which are fundamentally different positions. The closest you can get to neutrality on belief, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, but I will say in many cases my opinion is highly educated. You see the degree, but in many cases, that when you're talking about neutrality of belief, the only way I can find any neutrality of belief is apathy. That's the only neutrality that can exist there, is that I don't give a damn, which I am. Like, I'm an apathist. Like, if there really was a God, which obviously y'all know I don't believe there was one, but like, let's say Yahweh was real, I wouldn't fucking give a damn. I would not give a damn. And it was like, people were like, what would make you give a damn? What would make you care if Yahweh was real? If 200,000 years of human history didn't happen the way that has happened, that's what would make me give a damn. But the way that history has played out, the idea of any God that's watching shit is just useless to me. It's a useless idea. So I stay away from that shit, Now, if you can give me utility in it, you'd have to work really hard, which I think that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing. All right. Not a fan of what ifs, right? It's not fun. Yahweh being real would really be some scary shit. The fact that Christians are waiting for that, that's like, oh man, like, bruh. All right, so acknowledging that no one knows may sound intellectually humble, but it undermines the necessity of questioning and exploring evidence. Saying we can never know because it's unknowable is a form of intellectual laziness that stifles inquiry. Agnosticism can be seen as a useful placeholder when unsure, but atheism takes the additional step of rejecting belief in the absence of evidence, which is also a reasonable and intellectually valid position. Both positions are honest. I don't know any atheists who beat down on agnostics. I think I might be the first one who some people are going to feel like this is punching down on agnostics, but I'm not punching down on agnostics or agnosticisms. I'm punching down agnosticisms. I'm punching down on the people who claim to be agnostic while trying to attack atheists and not knowing what the fuck either of the words mean. And I want us to not waste time with those people. They felt and tried to explain, yes, so-called soft and hard atheism. Yeah, man, that is true. We really do need a word for those of us who believe we have sufficient evidence. Man, hey, y'all might need to get that started off as a conversation in Discord, because I really would like to spend some time on that. I really would. Yeah. But no, if you are an agnostic in the sense that you're saying, I think that it's impossible to know whether there is a God. I think God is unknowable. That's fine. That doesn't put you in a Quebec, what's up, G Paradise? Holy shit! I gotta add Quebec. I gotta add Quebec to the map. I don't know if we have any moderators in the chat, because y'all know we were having system issues earlier, so I didn't get to see how shit works. But please make sure we get that started. Man, it's nice to have somebody here from Quebec. That makes me feel good. Oh man, mama, look at me now. Now let me stop, y'all. But yeah, so I think it's a wise thing to, if you honestly are in that place where you say you feel like it's unknowable, then that's fine. But for you to claim that atheists who are not necessarily making a claim are being dishonest, or if you claim that atheists, because again, me kind of like Lost Explorers Guild, I do kind of exist in that place. And hell, I might write a book about it where I feel like, no, there is sufficient evidence to determine that there is no God, as long as we're dealing with the defined constructs of what has been defined as God. Now, if you're talking about a defined unknown, an undefined unknown, then you're talking about a fugazi. You're talking about an illusion. You're talking about something that can literally be whatever the fuck it is. And so, which means even if we find a bean in the middle of the, the largest black hole in the universe, you will get to change the definition of God to say, well, see, that was God the whole time. It's the bean that started everything. And it's just like, that has no utility to me. Like, there would be no scientific research mission that person would be useful on ever. The person who's just going to keep moving the goalpost. So I think in most cases, no, we have absolute evidence that there is no God. As far as a human-like creator who created the universe, I think the fact that the universe is so vast and just we're the only humans on this motherfucker is, I mean, that's kind of good exhibit A right there. You know what I'm saying? But then, like, even when people talk about evolution and they're like, oh, no, there's no, like, don't argue with those people. Because every time you argue with a flat earther, every time you argue with a person who's anti-evolution, every time you argue with a young earther, you are platforming their arguments as worthy to be considered as equal. And honestly, there are some arguments that are worthy to be considered as equal. There are some things that are worth debating. This shit is not. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it may get us views. Yes, it may get us money, but I'm telling y'all, and I hope y'all hear my heart, it does more fucking harm than good. Because then those people get to walk away saying, look what we did. See, I got to talk to such and such. That's how you know. This is why people think Jordan Peterson. Y'all know I don't like JP. Y'all already know it. Y'all already know it. All right. So someone else said, and I'm going to go through these, and all of these aren't necessarily negative. I only have 3 or 4 of them, but I got a lot to say about all of them. But all of these aren't necessarily negative. They're just wrong, right? So another person said, and this person was actually responding to another person trying to correct them, right? And they were trying to correct them. Yes, say that again, Richie. Most debates like that are a sport anyway, more than any actual intellectual exchange. And that's what I want us to think about, like, because there are real issues, there are real problems, there are real debatable subjects. Why not debate those subjects so that we can actually pull ourselves closer to some answers? And then what we'll realize is that we'll have no need for debate anyway. It can be dialectic conversations. Debate is when I'm trying to convince you that you're wrong and I'm right. Dialectics is when we're both looking for the truth. We're both invested in trying to figure out what is truth, and we have different perspectives. And we have different reasons for holding our sides, but we're investigating and interrogating each other's side in conversation to see, again, like the blind man touching the elephant, if you're touching something that I would have never touched and known about. It's investigating how the variables may change what we look at things, I know, right? I know it. I know. Don't pronounce that name. Oh, no, I agree, Lost Explorers Guild. It is complicated. That's why I've never taken that step all the way there. But it's there. It's there. Whether or not your arguments are more fruitful or logical, it's not reaching an understanding at all. It's about just making your opponent look foolish. And I hope we as a culture, as a society, as a global species really begin to understand that, because that is how many people are taking advantage of us. It very much still is let them eat cake. It very much still is, if you give the people a circus, they'll be okay. This is why politics is this and that. You know what I'm saying? We're at that place where everything is more so about making your opponents look foolish. This has dribbled down so far that I know, especially in the U.S., I can't speak for other countries, but even in the U.S., this is how many of our court systems work. And many of our court systems, it is not about who presents the best evidence. It is about who tells the better story, And this is how you get the problems that we get, And so I think we need to be unapologetic about reason. I think we need to be unapologetic about understanding and empathy and logic. And, that's just me. Who's got the better gift of gab? And, and I'm not going to lie, this is why I've gotten good at it, because I realized I'm not going to let other people out-talk me out of my shit. That's been happening way too long. So like everything that you see about me is me learning how to adapt and adopt to living as a Black man in the South. And I say Black man in the South because that's what the fuck I am. Everything about you is impacted by your lived experience as whatever your cultural, ethnic, gender, sexual, religious identity is. I was talking to somebody about this at work today. It absolutely grinds my fucking gears when we get mad at somebody for not sharing the same thoughts we share. When we get mad at somebody for not wanting to fight the same battles we want to fight. They didn't come through the shit you came through. They don't have the memories you have. They have memories of their own. They have shit of their own. And that is stuff that has formed them. We have to learn how to listen to each other and stop assuming that we know people that we've never fucking met. I see that shit just rampant. And I promise you, in the words of Kai, it creflows my dollars, man. It Kenneth's my Copelands. Like, you don't know people. No label gives you insight into anybody. It tells you this much. Like, and I mean, when you think about it, how well do you even fucking know yourself? No, I can take you down some rabbit holes where you will realize you don't even know who the fuck you are. If I asked you to if I asked you right now to point to yourself, you don't even know where the fuck to point. You don't know where self begins or self ends. So stop acting like you're a fucking expert on other people. Like, work on your damn self. And that's what we have to do. Again, this is why, like I think I told y'all Sunday, this is why I don't fit in a lot of other communities, because I don't jump on bandwagons, and I'm not looking for any reason to dehumanize anybody, even if they're people that I 100% disagree with. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Man, yes. Anyone who is trying to do good is doing something valid. That's right. Don't disparage them for their choice of charity. That's a great way to say that, man. That's right. Yeah. All just starting to figure me out, man. I'm just starting to get to that place where I'm comfortable being me and finding out what that means without having to worry about how uncomfortable that makes other people. Like, as long as I'm not harming you, grow the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is me. Like, I didn't realize, I think I was on a show with I was watching a show of the Apostate Sisters last year, and they were talking about not being able to cuss when you're kids, not being able to say certain words and shit. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. But that took me down a rabbit hole, and I understand why parents did that, right? Like, I'm not trying to say that's the worst thing in the world to do. It is something that I've pulled back from, because I'm like, oh shit, that bodily autonomy thing is real. That wasn't a conversation when I was a kid, bodily autonomy. And of course, we only talk about it when we're talking about issues like abortion. But then, like, I remember, like, I used to wrestle with cussing, because it was like, you can't say shit, but you can say shoot. And as a child, the way my neurospicy worked, I'm like, I'm thinking if the word is bad, it's bad because of the definition, not because of the way it's spelled. But I can't say the word because you've created these rules that have absolutely nothing to do with me. And these words don't create any harm. And now we have people caught up in these superstitious concepts. Oh man, yes. Like who the fuck am I hurting? And I thought about that, and I do want to speak to that a little bit, because I had to check somebody in my comments. I guess this is check comments day. I had to check somebody in my comments because they were saying that they identify as a scientific atheist, and I was like, cool. And then they go on this rant against gender, and I had to let them know, like, hey, number one, as a sociologist, I can tell you you're wrong. Because people always say, like, I don't trust people who use the word science. Science is very specific. It has many branches. Which science are you leaning into? Because you cannot talk about gender without leaning into social science. You cannot talk about gender without talking about sociology. And so if you're going to talk to me about gender and you're going to come at me with some biology, the only thing you're demonstrating to me is that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know? And so for you to have such a strong opinion and not to know what the fuck you're talking about, that shit is disheartening. Like, why the fuck would you do that? Why have an opinion on that? And see, that shit is, I'm passionate about that because that was my deconversion journey. That was the question I had to ask myself, Darante. Why do you have such an opinion on people's lives that you've never cared enough about to research? That's dishonest. That's dishonest. It's disingenuous and it's disgusting. I did 3 disses because I can do that. Bars. Oh shit, that went smoother than I thought it was gonna go. All right. So I have to get to this next one, man. Oh. Wow, how the fuck can we evolve and we forget history? That's insane. That's insane. Man, y'all took me down a rabbit trail, man. Oh man, I'm glad you appreciate that, man. Oh, it's real. I always remind people, like, at the end of the day, we need to remember these are human rights. There's nothing about what I believe about this world that should determine how another human gets to live their life. That's like, where do we get that audacity? Like, and again, what the fuck is the utility in that? What do you win with that? It's oh shit. All right, so this next one, agnosticism. This was a comment, and this person was, they weren't anti-me, They weren't anti-me. I did respond to them, but they weren't anti-me. Oh, I like that. Yes. Oh, snap. Did I just hear myself? Okay, I heard an echo for a minute. But this person said agnosticism isn't distinct from atheism. Now, obviously, I had to correct that. Now, again, this person, they were just trying to, help. But this comment also reveals a misunderstanding of the terms agnosticism and atheism. While it is true that both terms can involve a lack of belief in God, they have different philosophical foundations. Atheism is specifically the lack of belief in the deities, while agnosticism refers to the belief that the existence or non-existence of gods is unknowable, deals with knowledge. As Jason mentioned earlier, they answered different questions. So they are saying they are not distinct ignores the nuanced difference in how these terms are used in philosophy. If they weren't distinct, calling myself an agnostic atheist would be redundant. But it's not redundant. In the same way that someone calling themselves an agnostic theist would also not be redundant, because agnosticism has very little to do with theism. These words are related for sure. They share relation contextually, not grammatically, and not definitively, So again, agnosticism and atheism are related but distinct. Agnostics claim knowledge about the existence of a God is unknowable, while atheists reject belief in God either because they see no evidence for their existence or because they have found the claims unconvincing. Now, I do want to set in this, okay? This is why I'm an atheist. If knowledge about the existence or non-existence of a God is unknowable, how is it relevant? How is it useful? How does it matter? And this is often a very similar argument that I use with Christians after backing them into a corner about how God can't be measured. The moment you demonstrate that a God cannot be measured, then you're also admitting that God has no ability to impact natural circumstances, which then means you've immediately separated yourself from a God of utility. You've immediately separated yourself from the God of the Bible, and you've absolutely separated yourself from a God who could create a natural universe. If his activity cannot be measured in nature, then his activity has no impact on nature. See how that works? It works. See, a lot of times these arguments only stand because we don't actually drill down into what they're saying. We typically go to the philosophy of what people say. I realize most times you don't have to go to the philosophy. just point out to the foolishness of what the people are actually saying. You know, like what I did when and I think I've shared this with y'all, what I used to do when I was still deconverting as a pastor, because I realized like I had never heard from God. And it was like the last decade of me being a pastor, I tell people that God doesn't speak audibly. I used to tell people that, no, that would violate God's law. God's voice can't permeate the natural realm. I was charismatic, so I made that shit deep. But I would still see how many people would be like, oh no, God speaks to me, God speaks to me. And so what I'd start doing is the people in my church who would be like, oh, Pastor, God revealed this to me. God showed me this. God told me this. Every now and then, just randomly, I'd pop in and say, oh, let me see that. For anyone, I have a really good 1.5-minute clip about atheism. Is it okay? Yes, share it in the Discord. Share it in the promote stuff. Thank you, Kyle. Oh, damn it. I forgot what I was saying because that caught my attention. What was I saying? Somebody remind me. Who can remind me real quick? I was saying something. Oh, so I'd ask them randomly, just when they're not thinking about it. Hey, man, when you get to heaven, what's the first thing you're going to ask God? You know, I phrased the question just like that. Every single one of them would have a question. Every single one of them. Oh, man, I've been always waiting to ask God this. Wait a minute. I thought you just said you talk to God all the time, though. I thought you just said God speaks to you. No, these motherfuckers be lying, you know? But there, when I'd say, right? Why he make me so party? I love that. And what I do this to demonstrate, and again, this goes back to the hallelujah syndrome, is that most people are living on fucking autopilot. So they don't even realize they're lying when they're lying. This is what they know to say. But I mean, if most of us would be honest, you know, maybe we don't live there now, but can you remember a time where you felt pressured to say certain things, even though nobody was necessarily putting that pressure there? But you feel like, oh no, this is the right things to say. This is what I have to say. A lot of times when Christians say they're hearing God, they don't actually believe they're hearing God. They know that's the societally acceptable thing to say. When believers say, I feel comforted by God, many times they don't know what the fuck that means. They just know this is the acceptable thing to say. And if you really want to test that, just watch them. After they say they feel comforted by God, see if they stop crying. 9 times out of 10, they didn't, because they didn't feel any comfort. But these are the things that they're supposed to say. Many of you can probably remember being a child. Yes, growing up on Southern values, there's a lot of pressure to say the right thing. Because I think all of us know what it feels like to be ostracized. So you don't want to be the person that says something different than what other people are saying. Man. Ooh. What you say. Richie, I had the same feeling. I thought I was broken my whole life because everyone told me God spoke to them and led them, and I just had to listen. And I never heard him speak to me. And so I thought he turned his back on me. Man, oh man. And I love what I'm seeing happen in the chat. This is an amazing fucking community. I love y'all. So, God, this is good. Where are my notes at? So it's important to respect the distinctions between the two, right? A person can be agnostic and atheist, believing that the existence of a God cannot be known, but still rejecting belief in one due to the lack of evidence. To claim that they're not distinct is to overlook the different epistemological and ontological claims of each. All right, now this next one, and I'm pretty sure y'all have heard this one a lot. I wasn't going to include this one because this one is so foolishness it's such foolishness that I typically just kind of put it down there with the people who are in the woo world. But you're going to recognize it. This person says, I've dug just as deep in Christianity as I have in science. Now, remember, I told you I'm very cautious when someone describes science as just science. Which science, motherfucker? Just because you stupid don't mean the rest of us is. Which science? Like, imagine somebody getting a Nobel Prize on science. That's not how that shit works. Which science have you delved into? And see, the thing about those of us who actually do work in science is that you realize that science is so broad that I personally right now, and there are many polymaths on this planet. I'm kind of a polymath in certain areas, but there are many polymaths on this planet, and I don't know one person who's an expert on every branch of science. No, not one. So that's always an immediate red flag to me when a person says, I've dug deep in science. No, which science, bruh? That's like me saying, yes, I have a degree. What degree, bruh? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like they think science means knowing things, like or something like the sciences is a thing. Like it's what the fuck is going on? So he says, I've dug just as deep in Christianity as I have in science. They're both essentially religions. Now, I'm 2 sentences in, and I already know that this motherfucker has not even looked up the definitions of the words that he's using. But maybe that's that American hubris, that American exceptionalism. I ain't got to look up these words. Mama and Papa taught me what these words mean, you know? But you'd be surprised how many people have never looked up the words they mean. Like I say stuff that piss people all the time. I force people in the corner, like, okay, tell me what the difference is between a patriot and a nationalist. People get mad. They get mad. No, a patriot is not a nationalist. A patriot is a person who loves their country. Right? Okay. Let me ask you this. Why couldn't you just love people? Just asking. Oh, I love that. I love that, infidel. Man. Playing God knowingly or not. That is good irony. Hell, that'll make a whole novel right there. All right, so there's more. That's just 2 sentences in. You see how much bullshit we've got. It is just 2 sentences in. Do you see how much bullshit can be packed into just 1 or 2 sentences? You know? But like, that's why, like, I came up, like, I was really hungry for knowledge, even when I was a preacher. So when I'm in a room, like, I shut the fuck up until I understand what's going on in the room. You know what I'm saying? Now, part of that is growing up in the South. So growing up in the South for a long time, children were better, seen and not heard. But I ain't gonna lie, bro. That worked on your bro's ear hustling game. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I ain't gonna talk. I'm gonna listen like a motherfucker. So I've learned how to listen. But anyway, okay. So he also says much of what's taught as scientific fact is simply tradition and dogma. If you go down the rabbit hole far enough, I think you'll come out pretty agnostic. Life is a beautiful mystery. This is ultimately just a homage to ignorance. And that is what I find for a lot of the people who claim to be agnostics that are truly not agnostic. Just to kind of help you out, if you're agnostic, if you are truly agnostic, and I hate to use the no true Scotsman, I call it in my house, it's the no real man, because I don't know that many Scottish people. So when I teach logical fallacies, I try to make it relatable. But no real man is also a logical fallacy. It's the same fallacy as no true Scotsman. Also no real American. Also no real Christian. Also no real woman. Also no real man. I said that one. But do you see how that plays into how even some of the conversations we have today are totally based in fallacies? But anyway. But he says, you go down that rabbit hole far enough, you come out pretty agnostic. This is a person who's demonstrated that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't know the words they're using. And this is something that they all have in common. Oh, shit, this is good. This is something that they all have in common. And it's the thing that science doesn't necessarily do. It's this thing that atheists do not necessarily do. I'm not saying that there aren't some who do it. I'm saying if we laid it all out and identified the statistical pattern, it would be outliers who do it. But what seems like what all of these people who comment like this seem to have in common is think like I think, or you think the wrong thing. That's the same thing that they all have in common. If you don't come to the conclusion that I came to, you came to the wrong conclusion. This is how you know you're not dealing with someone who's intellectually engaged. You're dealing with someone whose ego is being stimulated. They're mentally masturbating themselves. It makes them feel good to play with themselves while talking to you. You know what I'm saying? It is absolute arrogance. Yes. So this comment, as with the other ones, reveals a profound misunderstanding of science, religion, and you guessed it, epistemology. Which again, I tell people, man, like, damn, if you're gonna do anything, learn how to know. Like, when you learn how to know, when you learn ways of knowing, you can kind of spot bullshit really quick. You have no idea how many people I've had to save from wasting their money on a scam because they don't know how to know. Some of y'all have had some hard conversations with me. Like, I have to tiptoe with people to let them know, like, hey, the shit you're thinking is 100% unreasonable. But if you've lived your whole life in a country that celebrates believing unreasonable shit for the sake of virtue, how do you not create a society of people who are not ultimately dependent and disappointed on things that are unreasonable? You know what I'm saying? No, Santa Claus is not coming to town. Okay. We gotta get that shit settled. All right. So, oh man, I know I love having that bullshit detector, man. It is an acquired skill. Like, because I've had to go back in my own life and watch how many times I fell for some stupid shit, But so no, science is not a religion, and equating the two is a false analogy. Science is based on empirical evidence, falsifiability, and testability, whereas religion often relies on faith and authority exclusively. The dogma in science is based on well-tested theories subject to modification or rejection whenever new evidence arises, which is radically different from unchanging dogma. To equate the two suggests a lack of understanding about what constitutes evidence-based knowledge and the scientific method. And I'm just going to be real honest with you. Science is not just about protons and electrons and neutrons. It's not just about neurology and biology. Science is how we engage the world, and it's how we know that what we're doing is dependable. Okay? I think one of the saddest things in the world is that science was taught as something separate from life. One of the things that absolutely changed my life, I may teach a whole fucking course on it, was realizing that I was being a dumbass by not using the scientific method in my everyday life. Yeah, it's not just for liquids and shit. Nope. It's not just for astronomy. Nope. It is for testing shit. It is for figuring out how shit works. It is for determining if something is a dependable process or not. It is finding out if something is just correlated or caused. Oh man, when I injected the scientific method in the way that I actually approach life, I was like, damn, I had these answers the whole fucking time. I've had these fucking tools since middle school. But these tools were just supposed to be about baking soda and vinegar. Man, that's right. Every little kid who picks up a rock and asks a question is doing science. Man, no, but every time you sleep with four people unprotected and don't catch anything, you are doing science. You know what I'm saying? And you start writing that shit down. You're doing science. Every time you shake somebody's hand, you're doing science. Every time you talk to somebody and there's a response to it, you're doing science. Every time you get up in the morning, you're doing science. We've let superstition and religious and cultural foolishness make us think that science is something way out there, and it's like, no, this is the shit that is impacting your life every fucking day. I love it. The pull-out-ski methodology. Oh, yes. Oh man. Yes, I love this. I love this. This is good. Man, I love y'all. All right. So, God damn it. So, science is a method. It's not a belief. It's a method of discovery and inquiry. Scientists do not require each other to share the same ideology, nor is there anything such as heresy in science. You don't get banned for having a different viewpoint in science. You are given the opportunity to demonstrate whether your viewpoint is accurate, testable, or not. Right? You're not thinking by my logic, right? Oh, man. So it's not a belief system. Religion, in contrast, is often based on untestable claims. You know, for example, when science proposes theories, it does so based on extensive empirical evidence and can revisit those theories in the light of new data. Religion makes truth claims that are typically immune to change and often unverifiable. It's intellectually lazy to dismiss these differences in favor of a false equivalence. Life may indeed be a mystery, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't seek to understand it through rationale, evidence-based based methods. All right, so that means I have to say some other shit here, because I guess we are kind of beating down on agnosticism a little bit. Because the thing is, to say something is unknowable, I have no evidence that to know the existence of God is unknowable. So how could I attach myself to that ideology? What evidence do I have that something is unknowable? That's still leaning into religious superstition of there's just some things you will never know. I don't know that shit. I mean, that could be true, but I don't know that. I literally don't know that these things are unknowable. For all I know, 4,000 years from now, several generations of humans will have expanded throughout the whole universe and solved this whole fucking puzzle. Do I think that would happen? I don't know. I'm kind of apathetic to it at this moment. Unless some rich motherfucker figures out how to, extend life for everybody, then I'm a little more invested, you know? But no, like if it's in order for me to declare, to claim, if you will, that it is unknowable, I'd have to have evidence that demonstrates, yep, this is unknowable. So at the end of the day, this is actually an argument from incredulity. You're saying, because I don't know now, because humans don't know now, this can never be known. That is a fallacy. It's actually several fallacies in that. Damn, I didn't mean to go that hard, but that is what it is. You know, I was, y'all know I don't do debates a lot because I don't, y'all know I went through Black nationalism, so I have a lot of Black nationalist, Pan-Africanist mentors. One of my mentors was Dr. John Henry Clark. One of my favorite quotes of his is, "I only debate with equals. Everybody else I teach. Except for that, I don't feel the need to be anybody's teacher." And when I say that, it's not like I'm not your teacher. Please don't ever look up to me as your teacher. I don't want to be your teacher. You're fucking grown. You know what I'm saying? And even if you ain't grown, if you just happen to be a child watching me, what the fuck is your parents doing? Or maybe you just got really cool parents. But no, even if you're a child, you don't need me as your teacher. You need to be committed to paying attention. You need to be committed to learning. You can't learn my life lessons. You know what I'm saying? My shit can't really teach you shit. The only thing it's going to give you is a little boost of those chemicals running in your body that makes you feel like you just heard something, that makes you feel like you can conquer the world, but I don't know shit about your life to be able to speak to it. So you have got to posture yourself to learn. Every time somebody tells me they hid this from me, they lied to me, I said, you didn't do enough fucking work to get it. And I say that because that's just the fucking world we live in, man. Ooh, I love that thought, Fields. And that perfectly aligns with your name. I think the only limitations of what you can know is your imagination, how far it can stretch. Yes, I like that. I like that. So, man, okay. So, I got to hit this next one. I love it. Fire in the chat. Thank you, Magic Nova. You had took it back, and I was like, damn, why they took back the fire? I like the fire. I was like, maybe they didn't like the last thing I said. They like where I was going, and didn't like where I was ended, which that does happen sometimes. You know, I'll zig on y'all asses in a minute. All right, so this is the next one. We can't know with absolute certainty either way. That's why I'm agnostic. This is another comment. And again, this is actually not a bad one. but I just want to critique what's wrong with it, right? While it's true that absolute certainty is rare and often an impractical standard in philosophy, the claim that we can't know anything with certainty does not necessarily justify agnosticism. There are philosophers like David Hume and many contemporary epistemologists argue that we can live with a reasonable degree of certainty, even without absolute knowledge. The fact that we can't know everything with absolute certainty yet doesn't mean that we can't form reasonable evidence-based conclusions. Agnosticism as a position of not knowing is often used, and I hate to say it, as a way of evading intellectual responsibility. It becomes a cop-out when people use it to avoid having to make a decision about belief in the absence of conclusive evidence. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I love it. I love it. And you know, something that kind of came to my mind that I wanted to add to this, and I think the reason why these arguments don't appeal to me at all is because another one of my reasons for deconverting is that I realized that many of the people who were my mentors, people who had been in ministry for decades, people who had large churches, people who had founded Christian schools, Christian seminaries, that many of these people had never done the work to know. Many of these people had never researched canonization. Many of these people had never even read about the early church fathers or even the desert fathers. I don't know if y'all know much about them. You know what I'm saying? And so I just like, ooh, wait a minute. How is this the most important thing you say? The most important thing in the world? You say your faith, your belief in God. You say, God, your belief in God is the most important thing in the world. And you'll stand in a pulpit and you'll say, I know for a fact that God is real. And you haven't done the first bit of research. That might have actually been the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because my assumption always was where there were things that I didn't know and understand that one of my mentors one day was going to be able to open me up to. And then I realized that many of the things that I was actually trying to understand, they weren't even trying to. And so that's why this forum, to me, as I open up, I just kind of consider it cowardice and intellectually lazy. You might as well be an apathist. I don't know why you're making a claim about it at all. If you're saying you don't know enough to speak on it, why the fuck are you speaking on it? You see how I did that? You see how I did that? See, you don't even have to always attack this stuff philosophically. Utility, my friends, utility. If you're saying you don't know enough to have a fucking opinion, then why the fuck do you have an opinion? Do you see, like, and you see, again, either we failed the public education system or that motherfucker failed us. One way around, there are way too many people saying shit that makes absolutely no sense, and they can almost always find an amen corner. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, damn it. I don't know. Like, damn, did I even get through this? All right. So, oh, shit. So, agnosticism as a position of not knowing, again, is just often used as a cop-out. Now, good faith agnosticism, I have no problem with. And good faith agnosticism, for me, is typically the more apathetic agnostic, especially when you're like agnostic and I'm not an atheist. All right, then shut the fuck up. Then you're an agnostic theist. That means you're an agnostic that believes that God is unknowable, but you believe there is likely a God out there. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you saying this shit would have no utility. And that's why I say these type of agnostics, to me, they're just perpetrators, you know, like because they don't know what the word agnostic means, they do think that it's some neutral position. And it's like, no, you're an agnostic theist, you know, just embrace that shit. And by far and large, Here's an interesting thing. There are some atheists who are anti-theist, right? I am an anti-theist in some senses of the word. But even the atheists who are anti-theist, most of them are not always anti-all theism. And again, this is something that we have to get better about with our words, right? Right? Yes, they have a position. There it is, Matt. You said it. They have a position, but they don't want to argue about it. Yes, a position of indifference. Absolutely, a position of indifference. So it's good. I don't know, mainly because I don't know. I don't know. And honestly, any ideology that isn't going to bring some forward momentum to my life, any type of upward progress, I don't really care to know. If this isn't going to help me, I don't care to know. Funny fact about me, I don't listen to the radio when I'm in the car. I don't watch a lot of television. I'm very intentional about the information that I know and that I don't know. There's certain things that I commit to not knowing. Like, I don't want to know. Like, I correct people when they start trying to give me celebrity gossip. I have to remind them, I don't know them motherfuckers. And I am getting older. I would like to preserve my brain cells for helpful information, please. I don't want to care who's sleeping with who. I don't give a damn about nobody's freak offs. I don't want to know how much baby oil was in there. That's not my business. You know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness. Yes. All right. So saying that we cannot know anything without absolute certainty is philosophically self-defeating. Even that statement would require some level of certainty. Do you see how that shit works, y'all? Do you know how many? I'm about to fuck y'all up. Now, this isn't real lore, so don't get mad at me. This is just a grammar problem that they missed in the Star Wars movies. Yoda said, and I'm paraphrasing, that only Siths deal in absolutes. Do y'all remember that? I don't know how many of y'all are Star Wars folks out there. Maybe y'all are Trekkies. I can only do it on one hand. I can't do it on the other hand. It just looked like I'm being Dean from Claws. Somebody will get that reference. But, damn it, I forgot what I said again because I went to Dean and it took me somewhere else. Somebody remind me what I said. Shit. I don't think that one's coming back. Okay, Star Wars. There it was. Star Wars. Yoda said, like, only Siths deal in absolute. Do you realize that statement would then make Yoda a Sith? You know what I'm saying? That's it. That because that sentence is an absolute. When you say only these people do this, you're making an absolute statement. You know what I'm saying? The writers didn't catch that shit, but that's which I would love to see Yoda as a Sith. Oh my fucking goodness, I would love to see Yoda as a Sith. But that shit is that easy. It's that easy. So when a person says we cannot know anything with absolute certainty, then they can't know that we can't know anything without absolute certainty. You would need certainty to know that we can't know anything without absolute certainty. This person has put you in an Aurora Boreas. This is a snake eating its own tail. This shit is going nowhere fast. It's like chopping your head off to stand on it to make yourself taller. You know what I'm saying? Nope. And this is what I see. This is why I say I wish we'd stop platforming this foolishness, because a lot of people are saying stuff that is stupid, and we're so engaged in trying to find the right combatant to it that we just don't just highlight the foolishness and what they said. Oh, it was Obi-Wan. Thank you. Damn. I can imagine Obi-Wan as a Sith. I could see that shit. He would be a good one too. Damn, now I want to see that. Shit. Okay, so y'all got me Star Wars. For those of you who don't know, and this might make you a little uncomfortable, but my nickname at work is Palpatine. I don't want to give anybody any concerns. Don't want to give anybody any concerns. Oh man, this is awesome. All right, so agnosticism, and again, this is not to beat down agnosticism, to be clear. This is really to highlight what agnosticism is and what agnosticism isn't. Agnosticism is not a neutral position. That's not what it is. the agnostics are not the gray Jedi, you know? And that's what they're treating like. The agnostics are acting like the gray Jedi, and like the atheists are the Sith, and that the Christians, like, what the fuck are the Jedi? Which that would make sense because there was slavery and all that shit going on under the Jedi. Don't get me started on critiquing the oh shit, don't get me doing this shit. All right, y'all, we're gonna have to start a whole separate show just to geek out about Star Wars. Like, oh shit, we're gonna have to start out like y'all done did Unlimited Power. I'm expecting Execute Order 66 to pop up at any minute now. Like, holy shit. Oh man. Okay. So agnosticism may be useful for certain individuals who feel uncertain, but using it as a blanket justification for inaction or indecision when confronted with insufficient evidence for deities is intellectually lazy. You don't need to claim absolute certainty to include that there is insufficient evidence for gods, which is the essence of atheism. Like, I don't have absolute certainty that a tooth fairy has never existed. But I can say that there is nowhere near sufficient evidence of a tooth fairy. And most of us would agree. Most of us would agree. We all got teeth and none of them say how they get there if they ain't a tooth fairy. You know what I'm saying? You know, we all got cupboards and none of us say, how did that cupboard get there if it wasn't for old Mother Hubbard? You know, we all got shoes and none of us say, how did them shoes get there if it wasn't for little boy Blue? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to stop treating these arguments as if they're valid, you know? So, yes. So this is the next one. And I think this might be the last one because I've definitely gone longer than I thought I was going to go. I thought this was going to be short. This was definitely going to be shorter. She comes from multiples. I like that. The teeth fairy. Yes. So this person says, one thing I learned here is that atheists are just as closed-minded and defensive as religious adherents. Now, typically when people say that, what they're saying is, because I won't accept your bullshit as evidence, I'm closed-minded. You know? Now, I do know that there are several atheists across the YouTube sphere who have shows that say, call in and convince me that your God is real. I don't know of any shows where Christians are saying, call in and convince me that my God isn't real. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know where people like a lot of these times. Let me help you with something real quick. Just because people say stuff doesn't mean they know what the fuck they talking about. Just because people say stuff doesn't mean that what they say is true. Right? So people make these blanket statements about atheists and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Just because I am unconvinced does not mean I'm closed-minded. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not closed-minded. I'm just not convinced. And just because I'm not convinced by the bullshit you're convinced by. Oh my. And it's like, oh, okay. So anyway, I got to get finished with his comments. He says, I remain convinced that we can't know with certainty the presence or absence of a God, and that agnostics are the only people honest enough to admit it. You all here would rather argue about the argument, apparently, just as futile as listening to the Bible thumpers declare how right they are. And interestingly enough, I've made over 420 videos in less than a year. And not one of my videos was arguing the existence or non-existence of God. Not one. Not one. That is, the problem is they think their belief is as good as our evidence. Man, true wisdom is knowing just how much about the world you don't know and how ignorant it is to think that you have it all figured out. That's actually one of my sayings. I say that intelligence is not knowing what you know, it's knowing what you don't know. Because that's what keeps you hungry to learn more. Like, and that's why I find this stuff absolutely disgusting, dishonest, and disingenuous, because the position of being an atheist is not the one pretending to know. It's the atheist who is absolutely like, we're standing 10 toes down saying, I refuse to pretend. Just because you drunk some gin and had a funny fucking feeling doesn't mean I got to believe the shit you believe. I don't give a damn how many dreams you had, Mary Sue. Like, no. I'm absolutely open. Absolutely. To truth, to reality. Just like, and that's the thing, because for many of them, their idea of evidence is, well, I told you that God did something for me. You just don't want to believe it. No, you just don't have a way of knowing. And with as much respect as I can, you have the mind of a fucking child and you don't know it yet. And I don't say that to disparage you. I say that in sincere concern because I know the fucking damage you're likely doing to your life. If this is how you process information, if this is how you determine what you know and what you don't know, I can only imagine how many times you've been screwed over because I have been there. I can only imagine how many times your heart has been broken because I have been there. I can only imagine how many times you've trusted people who were absolutely untrustworthy because I have been there. There is no healthy way to live in this world ignoring the evidence. There is no scenario where this shit is healthy for you. Oh my goodness. Whew. My goodness. Oh, I love that. I seek answers, but for the sake of answers, rather I seek new questions that I can grow further. Oh my goodness. So he says, my critique to this is he falls into the same false equivalence fallacy as the other brother did by comparing atheism with religious belief. Atheism, particularly when defined as lack of belief in God, is not about claiming absolute certainty. That is the thing. So many people come to atheists and say, how do you explain this then? The thing is, I don't have to explain that. I don't claim to explain that. I just now realize that your claim was never an explanation. And so I no longer have to pretend like it is. Man, that is the beauty of life. Learning is the beauty of life. Yes. Matthew 18 does say you're supposed to have a childish mind. You got to come to me like a child. You know? So atheists are often open to changing their minds based on evidence. The problem is you're never going to have any fucking evidence. So the mind can't change without the evidence. You know that you ain't got no evidence, I can't change. Trust me, if there's been no evidence for your God and okay, I'm gonna hit this. Remind me to come back to this because I got to. Nope, I'll hit it right now because I'll hit it. People can claim that there's no evidence to support no God. I want you to understand that while biologists and maybe even astrophysicists may contend with that, sociologists and anthropologists do not have that problem. Sociologists and anthropologists, we have sufficient evidence that there is no God because we can trace the origin of every God belief. We can trace the context of which that belief emerged. We can trace the utility of the documents and the writings that were used in those beliefs. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality, because God has never been a biological manifestation, nor has God ever been an astrophysical manifestation. God has always been nothing more than a sociological construct. And so that's where you go to find him. Oh, man. Only the possibly out of one of respect for others when addressing reality. That's beautiful. I'm not mad at that, Carrie. Ooh. I can deny all the ones I've heard of. That's right. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Man, that's it. It's beautiful. So the accusation of being closed-minded or defensive is often a projection. But this is why I think atheists need to stop platforming conversations with believers. I do. That's just me. There are people who have more substantial thoughts to contribute to the conversation that are not based in any type of religious dogma. There are people who are holding on to the ideology of some type of creator or some type of beginning that has some type of intelligent life that doesn't have anything to do with creationism or anything like that. I'd be more interested in those conversations because those are people who are actually doing the fucking research. Like, why the fuck are we putting people who are actually studying the science on the same page with people who are only on the same stage with people who are only studying of the Bible? That's an insult. And when I say it's an insult to every fucking person who's in the audience at that moment, because you're confusing them about what substantial information is and what isn't substantial. You know? Like, shit. Why would we have reason to believe? That's it. That was a major thing. Like, I know many people who deconstruct from communal Christianity. Some people deconstruct from cultural Christianity, which means they were Christian in name, you know, and they sometimes went to church. But people who deconstruct from communal Christianity, which means these people went to church every chance the church was open. They were involved in church leadership. They were volunteers. They financially gave and supported the church. They were close to the church leadership or whatever. People like that who deconvert and deconstruct, one of the first things they begin to realize is that their non-belief has no significant impact on their life. It's one of the first things they realize is that you spend your whole life thinking that things are working for me because I believe, because God is looking out for me. And then you go through this phase where you completely denounce God and nothing changes. And that's when you begin to realize, oh, there's no fucking utility in this belief. This is why you had to attach a heaven and a hell to it. You had to give somebody give somebody something that they have to be afraid of on the other side. Because on this side, there is no utility of belief. Just ask the person who prayed for their dying children. You know what I'm saying? There is no utility in the belief. Oh man, like as a responsible parent, I could never teach my children to lean on something that there is no utility in. And like, I know we don't want to critique the generations before us, but that's the only way we become adamant about doing better. When we look back and say, no, it was like maybe part of our problems is that we raised entire generations of people to be dependent on something that was absolutely not dependable. So then you wonder why so many people get in relationships with people who are not dependable. They've been coaching themselves to tolerate that their whole lives. You know? Shit. The trick is to include thoughts and prayers. That is, oh my goodness. Yeah, people, oh man, people knew straight up and down. Like a few years ago, I woke up and half of my face stopped working. People were certain that it was the work of God. See that? God did that. And it was supposed to last for 6 months. It lasted less than 2 weeks. Hold on, you don't play with me. Wow. All my beliefs rendered worthless. It took a spell for me to recover and move forward. It hurt like hell. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Stories can absolutely have meaning and value. Yes. Man. I like that. Skepticism in one's own belief. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. Oh, man. So atheists we're usually reacting to dogmatic religious claims, you know, and the only claims that we typically make from the position of atheist, right? You have to remember my name is Darante LaMar Martin. I am not just an atheist. I am also a sociologist, a social scientist. You know what I'm saying? So when you hear me make statements definitively about especially the God of the Hebrew Bible not existing, that's not coming from my atheism. You see what I'm saying? That's coming from my informed understanding of sociology and human development. You know, and I think that's that simplicity that we allow Christians to throw at us, and agnostics too, is that, oh yeah, it's an atheist saying that. Well, wait a minute. The person you're saying, yes, this person is an atheist, but this person is also a chemical biologist. You know what I'm saying? Or an evolutionary biologist. No, this person is also a neurologist. So it's not their atheism only determines that they don't believe it. Their information about its existence goes well beyond atheism, especially if the information is valid. The information itself would fall into its own category. So if a person is telling you that I don't think a God is real, that there is any God, because this thing that happens in nature, then they're not talking to you from their atheism. They're talking to you from their understanding of geology or what may have you. You see, but you see how dishonest this shit gets. And in many times, but this is why I take the conversation to us, right? It's our dishonesty that's the problem. Oh, y'all gonna get mad at me. It's us treating them like they're saying something that makes sense. That's the problem. They don't know they're being dishonest. They think they're saying something that is reasonable. They think they're saying something that is true because we refuse to treat it like it's unreasonable. You know, like there is no way in fucking hell you treat anybody seriously who came to you and said, can I tell you how Batman saved my life? And how if you accept Batman as your personal hero, he can save your life too. Nobody would take this motherfucker seriously. You know what I'm saying? So doing that shit with believers or anybody else is humanly irresponsible, because that's why we wouldn't do it if somebody was doing it with Batman, because we know that shit is dangerous. After everything that we've seen religion do, why would we not treat it as dangerous as we've seen it be? Like, look at what it is doing to very real human relationships today. And let's be honest, it's not just religion. It's all of these things that we won't be accountable for ourselves, man. Whew, man. It all that way, or because we are taught it. Oof. So to claim agnosticism is the only honest position overlooks the active process of rejecting beliefs that are unsupported by evidence. Who the fuck is anybody to say I'm being dishonest because I said I'm not convinced? You know what I'm saying? Like, man, is the message is accurate. That's it. Batman, Robin, and Commissioner Gordon, right? You know? Oh, man. Nope. It's easy to be neutral or indecisive, but it takes intellectual honesty to reject beliefs that cannot be justified. And I do believe that it is everybody's responsibility to absolutely reject beliefs that cannot be justified. You know, you can hold them as a speculation. You can hold them as an imagination. I love speculation. Like I said, in my book back there, and I just realized my mirror is backwards. But in my book back there, I speculate about all types of things. Speculation is beautiful. Imagination is beautiful. Wonder is beautiful. It is when we blur the lines of wonder and wisdom, when we try to turn our imagination into some type of intuition. This is when we create problems, you know? And so we'll just add new labels to ourselves and say something different and still, like, I think the key is, if you pay attention, anytime you kind of see that superior type of attitude, you can almost know you're dealing with somebody who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. You know, and that's what you saw in all of these comments. The only people who are doing it right are the people who are doing it my way. I want you to notice that that's never how I really present conversations. I'm 100% okay with people not seeing things the way that I see things. And I'm gonna tell you why I'm okay with it. Are you ready for this? You might want to lean in because I don't give a fuck. Why would I give a fuck? If somebody agree with me or disagree with me, you live all the way over there, motherfucker. Like that shit they're like, there's no utility in that, There's no utility in that. I don't share my thoughts to change anybody's minds. If something I said changed your mind, I'd be a little worried about you. I'm like, no, I hope something I said made you think, and then you determined to go look up some information yourself, and then you changed your own mind. Stop letting other people change your fucking mind. Like, damn, get people out your head, bro. Handle your shit on your own. That's what I encourage people to do, But these comments that we went through, and I'm wrapping up for the night. I know we've been on here for 2 hours, and I gotta eat with my family. It's been a long day. But the comments show a pattern of intellectual laziness, misunderstandings of key concepts like the difference between agnosticism and atheism, use of false equivalences. This type of intellectual dishonesty arises from individuals who don't make an effort to deeply engage with the content, but instead make sweeping, oversimplified claims to avoid difficult intellectual work. These are pseudo-professionals. They are armchair philosophers who throw out opinions without backing them up with research, only to spew unexamined opinions in a way that perpetuates misinformation. When you're really dealing with people who I'd consider intellectuals, they don't necessarily say, show me your research. They say, articulate your understanding. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why, I was in a conversation with somebody a few months ago, and they degree dropped. Yeah. Well, I have this degree. I was like, oh, that don't mean shit to me, because you degree dropped without even knowing how many degrees I have. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Don't do that shit to yourself. But it also let me know the fact that you felt the need to drop your degree instead of articulating your point lets me know that degree don't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? No, I can articulate my point. This is why I'm good at what I do. But it's because I'm not articulating my point to convince anybody else. I didn't learn this shit to convince other people. This is my life. I learned this shit to learn how to navigate my life. This is why I have the conversations that I have. So these individuals are more concerned with preserving their comfort and avoiding rigorous intellectual challenge than they are with seeking truth or even understanding. But at the least, if you don't feel like you can ever get truth, at least get understanding. It's essential to call this out because ignorance, when left unchecked, fosters the spread of harmful information and undercuts meaningful progress. This is how you get election 2024. We have to understand that we all have to do better, But this is how we do that shit. Man, the actuality of reality as we currently know it. Carrie Ann, I love that. Yes. Man, thank y'all, man. I'm so glad that y'all jumped in here. Man, I felt so bad that I wasn't able to get my normal pre-recorded video out, but it felt absolutely amazing. Actually being able to hang out with y'all, especially Richie, man. Richie, make sure you jump in the Discord, man. We'd love to connect with you. And for the rest of y'all, that's for everybody. Richie, he ain't special. Richie, you got to give me your pronouns because we just met. Please give me your pronouns. I want to make sure I don't mess that up. But Richie, please get in the Discord. Anybody else who's out there, please jump in the Discord. We're building community. These are the type of conversations we want to have. These are the type of things we want to do. We're traveling. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate you. Man, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. These are the conversations that we want to have. We want to build community. As you see, we have a good time. We're going to talk our talk. But at the end of the day, we're not just saying shit. We're actually doing shit. We're going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina in April. We love to have your support. Then we're going to be in Detroit. Then we're going to be in Chicago. Then we're going to be in Portland. Then we're going to be in San Francisco. Then we're going to be in LA. We have people asking us to come to Georgia. We have people asking us to come to Texas. We have people in New Mexico. And we're adding more content creators to the stream so that we can support the things that they're doing while also building our community so we can take all of our communities out of these isolated silos and come together like the fucking Megazord. you know, because like what the world needs now is a Megazord. Like we need Captain Planet or some shit, like when our powers combined, you know. So that's why you're gonna see us, BridgeCity Global, and the Damn Network working closely together. And as many San Diego, I love it. Oh man, Lost Explorers Guild. Are you in San Diego? We got to add that one. We got to add that one because we do have some people in San Diego. Actually, one of our team members, like one of our like senior team members, is in the San Diego area. So man, but I love y'all. Listen, if you haven't already, make sure y'all like this video because that shit matters. Subscribe to the channel because that shit matters. Hit that alert notification bell again because that shit matters, right? How else are you gonna get notified if you don't hit the bell? Don't let these be surprises. You want to get the notification. And then of course, consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this channel, community, or content in any way that makes sense for you, right? Oh man, we got more people in San Diego. That's what I'm talking about. Damn, this is beautiful. Shit, we're gonna have to add San Diego to the map. God damn it. I mean, like we're gonna have to add San Diego to the tour this year because we'll already be in California. But yes, and of course, share this video. If you think there was something in here that was worth sharing, please share this. It impacts our community in a major way. The one thing that I love about living in this technological age is that we don't have to beg people for money. Instead, we can just beg people to share our content. You know, and it also means that people who want to support financially but can't afford to, they don't have to feel bad that they can't afford to, because if you're sharing our content and watching our content and liking the shit, you are helping us just as much as anybody who gives. And so please share the fuck out of this because it's helping us build tangible community. And as I've said before, if you're not in the Discord yet, please get in there. Somebody please drop the Discord link in this chat, y'all. Please drop that link in the chat. I don't know who's left. Now the team, I didn't warn them that I was doing this, so I don't even know who's in the chat. But we will get that Discord link in the chat. It is also in the description, by the way. It's in the description of this video, and it is on my homepage as well. Yeah, it's always good to see the Damn Network. Like I am really like I think I said it at the beginning. I'm really excited about working with Chris, and I think I can say it. Like we're working to make sure Chris can be with us in Raleigh when we come to Raleigh in April. So Chris is going to be one of our keynote speakers and is going to be participating in the Bible study with the next pastor. Yes, you have stumbled into a community. Yes, I love it. Pragmatic humanist. Yes, I love this shit, man. Okay, I'm sorry. I cuss a lot, y'all. If y'all don't know, I cuss a lot. It's making up for lost time is what it is. But it's also because I don't believe in magical words, like period, blessings or cursings. I don't believe in that. You know, I believe there's shit you can say that can hurt people's feelings, and I try not to do that. I try not to, but I grew up on like Robin Harris, you know, Richard Pryor. So I got a mean streak. I got to like, it's a funny mean streak, but it's mean streak. And yes, thank you, Carrie, for reminding me. Yes, in March, I have the date written down somewhere. I don't know where it's written down at, but March 3rd. I was going to say March 23rd. Damn, that's closer than I thought. So March 3rd, I'll be on Myth Vision. I don't know if we're pre-recording. No, I think we're going live on that. So yeah, that's live. That's live. So stay tuned for that. And then of course, just recently I did accept a host position with The Line. Jimmy Snow and I had a wonderful conversation. Hell, I don't know if I'm even supposed to be saying it. If I'm not, they'll tell me. I hope I ain't kicked myself off already. But you know, but I'm excited on connecting. And at the end of the day, the reason we call our community Bridge City is because that's the thing that we want to do. We want to be bridges. We want to build bridges. We, you know, us siloing off does no good. We need to work together as much as we can. We need to strengthen each other as much as we can. And it's not just about blowing smoke up each other's asses. It's about being able to be a real resource for people whose lives are about to be irreparably, you know what I'm saying, impacted. It's time for the secular community to be more than just a voice. It's time for us to actually be helping hands and feet in the street. And the only way we're going to get there is by working together. Again, when our powers combined, Wonder Twins activate, Go-Go, Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers, and whatever else the fuck, Ronin Warriors, you know what it is. The big point is we got to come together. Like, I get it. Everybody's goal isn't to build weekly community. That's my goal. But if we do build weekly community, doesn't that make recovering from religion stronger? If we do build weekly community, doesn't that make organizations like Black non-believers stronger? If we do build weekly community, doesn't that make the secular community stronger as a whole? We have to move from just being voices. We've got to be helping hands. When people run into problems, it can't just be the churches that are meeting their needs. We can't continue to call ourselves humanist while sitting out. If we're really humanist, then we need to be doing better than everybody that we say is not humanist. We need to be the ones taking care of the orphans. We need to be the ones creating rehab programs. If we are who we say we are, a superstar, then have no fear. The crowd is here and the mic is on. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I can't help it. I'm a musician. Shit. Oh man. Ooh, could we go over how community building grew in Black neighborhoods and how they threw? Oh, that is a really good point. Carrie, you're gonna keep me here all fucking night because that is one hell of a good point. But that is where like some of my strategy comes from. I ain't hid it from y'all. Your boy used to be a Black nationalist, and I'll tell y'all, I still lean into that area. What I prefer is globalism. I don't know how it's going to take for us to get there. Man, I love that Small Atheist Group here has a secular recovery meetup. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think Cusco, I think you're in the Discord, right? And if you are, can you share about that in the Discord? There might be some other people in the area who want to know. Idlewild, yes, it's my backyard. Wow. Well, listen, I'm supposed to be getting up out of here, but y'all are an amazing community. Again, if you haven't joined the Discord, please do. How are y'all liking the new song? I didn't even ask. Well, I think somebody mentioned that they liked it, but it's for the new series, but I think we're going to let it stay on for a while. But you'll get to hear it as we close it out tonight. Oh, snap, Calvinist. Oh, yes. Yes. But I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. And until next time, keep rising, stay progressive. And if you can,
Me, yes, I'm a fuck with the ball. Yes, I'm a fuck with. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity.
I'll holler at y'all later.
I got my own autonomy. You would never bother me. Yes, I'm a fuck with the ball. Yes, I'm a fuck with. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm a fuck with the ball. I can't stop loving authenticity. I can't stop loving me. I can't stop loving authenticity. I can't stop loving me. Yeah, what you yeah, oh, I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity.